Lights, camera, action, stories with Zach. I ask the questions and you get the answers. This week, I sat down with the chair of the Durham Region, John Henry, to discuss the impacts of COVID-19 on the Durham region. Thank you very much for joining me. What kind of challenges has COVID-19 presented for the Durham region and specifically like the regional council and some of their work, but also on the finances of the region?
So first of all, the Durham region is one of the largest regions in Ontario. It takes up an area of about 2,500 square kilometers. And to give you an idea of the size of the region, the city of Toronto would fit in the municipality of Clarington.
Okay.
So Durham is huge. We take in 8 municipalities. We cover a big part of the lakeshore of Lake Ontario, but we go all the way up to north of Beaverton on Lake Simcoe. So it's a huge area. For us, it's the services we deliver are essential services. We deliver policing, paramedics, long-term care in our 4 senior homes, a daycare, water, sewer. Um, we look after a waste transfer station. So for us, all of our business identities are all essential. So it's been a challenge managing all of the interests that the region has in our residents during a lockdown has been a challenge. We have 1,600 people working remotely as we speak, which was a challenge because we needed to transition a year ago very quickly into moving our people from out of our locations to working from home. That was a challenge, and we did that. And from right from the lockdown, the declaration of the emergency last March, if you were to call into the region, it would have been seamless. If you had a broken water pipe on your front lawn, and you needed a regional team to be there to do that, you would call into our call center. Our residents wouldn't know that those people that are answering the phone weren't necessarily, well, they weren't here at the region, they were working remotely, and that we would respond to that water pipe incident with the same number of staff that we would have in the past, but they would have come in more vehicles. You wouldn't have crews of 4, you would have one individual in a truck, and instead of having 2 trucks, you might have had 8 trucks there. So navigating the challenges related to COVID has been interesting. Every day we need to adapt and change the way we do business to meet the needs of our residents, and that is in every avenue of the region, whether it be in waste, policing, paramedic services, long-term care. It has been a challenge, and I'm proud of the team. They've done an amazing job. The work still gets done, and for our residents, it's seamless. But there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, especially when you go to now that we're doing vaccines. Between our 8 centers and one in each municipality, our pop-up centers, our mobile centers, the team that's out there that does the work every day, and all of the team that's behind them that you don't see, that manages the IT infrastructure, the delivery of the vaccines, and products needed to deliver the vaccines, managing the security of the sites. It has been a very unique challenge, but the region's responded well to it. I'm very proud of the team and the work that they've done.
Have any services in the region been impacted? I'm thinking like public transit.
So public transit has been affected. The number of riders are quite a bit lower than they were prior to the pandemic, but we've still been able to meet our residents' needs. We've changed some scheduling. We've utilized our on-demand service, which is very unique in the north. So, for us, we've been able to adapt to the challenges of COVID-19. Well, we're still able to get those essential workers to and from work who rely upon public transit. There again, it's been amazing to watch how we've been able to react. There has been challenges within, but we've been able to continue. And when we find that challenge, we're able to adapt and change. And I'm really proud of our transit operators and all the people that work behind the scenes, the people that clean the buses, which is not something that you would really talk about. But during COVID, it's essential to make sure that the buses are clean, that our teams that do that do an amazing job, and same similar to our staffing in our long-term care homes, how they've managed that. And then for them to do their job, it goes back into our emergency operations center and our purchasing people that have been able to acquire all the personal protection equipment that's needed to do all of this. So, you see a regional employee, but there's an entire team out there behind them that support them. And during non-COVID, it's amazing to watch. But during COVID, it has been incredible to see how we've been able to manage, adapt, and react to this challenge of something that is wreaking havoc around the world.
That is great to hear. How specifically more general, how has the region's finances been impacted going through COVID?
So I don't have, I'm just going to go from memory, but today just to help you. But in 2020, our challenge was huge. It wasn't something that no community in Canada had ever budgeted for this type of thing. So from the impact of loss of revenue to how we provide services was dramatically changed. We were operating our buses and not collecting fares for the longest time, because we needed to be able to move people effectively, but we needed to protect our drivers so that people were boarding from the back of the bus, and we were only running so many people per bus because of COVID. So we were able to do that. So the loss of revenue is one part of that. Our operating costs related to COVID was somewhere around $46 million last year. But we were able to, in partnership with the federal and provincial government, we were able to receive funds that cut that operating loss substantially. So, I'm going to use by about 50%. So,
Okay.
we received about $23 million thereabouts from the federal and provincial government. And then what we've done within the organization, because of how we've changed and how we're operating businesses, we went through every department, looked for those savings to bring them forward to cover the costs. And I'm really proud to say that as we finished our budget this year, there was no impact from the loss of revenue from 2020 going into the 2021 budget. We're still challenged. We still have ongoing financial challenges related to the rollout of the vaccines, operating our centers. Additionally, we have the challenge of continuing to hire people to replace the people that have retired during COVID.
Right.
That's ongoing because we still have to replace our long-term care staff, our police, our paramedics, our water treatment people, daycare, all of the people that work in the region that that retired those jobs. So our HR team is working incredibly hard to make sure that we find the necessary people. Just as an example, in long-term care, when COVID first hit and we closed our facilities to volunteers and family members, we lost a number of people that supported our staff that would be there, feeding their parents or helping with entertainment for our residents. So having to go out and hire people during COVID was a real challenge, remains to be a challenge, because most of it has to be done this way until you're hired, and then once you're an employee, you can come in and get things done. So utilizing technology, moving from platform to platform to deal with all this. So that's amazing. So on any given day, like today, we're using, I believe we're using Zoom. We'll use Teams, we'll use WebEx. With residents, I'm using FaceTime. So being able to adapt to the technology changes and platforms that are out there, you didn't have that envelope of teaching. You went from, for example, in our first meeting with the mayors of the GTHA and chairs that we host every Monday, my first WebEx meeting was live. That you had to navigate the technology while you were in the meeting to be effective. And our team here at the region has just done an absolute wonderful job navigating all of the technologies that we need to do our meetings virtually, including our council meetings. So at regional council, you will find 5 people in the council chambers. You will find the clerk, 2 assistants, the CAO, and myself.
Okay.
And we run a virtual meeting through the technology that we have and our staff here at the region that manages all this behind the scenes. And we'll have all of regional council and supportive staff in a virtual meeting like we have right now, where we're able to conduct the business of the region, make sure that we pass the appropriate motions. We got our budget done virtually. It's a challenge managing 60 people in a Teams meeting, utilizing the chat box, but we've made it work. And I'm proud of the members of council for being able to adapt to the technology, because not everybody has that background in technology.
Right.
So we reached this point where we had to shift overnight into this new world of being virtual. So and even for meetings now, if I need to talk to the CAO, normally I would walk down the hallway. Well, the CAO is the only person on this side of the 5th floor of the region today, where I work out of, is me. So everyone that I meet with is done virtually. So I still have as many meetings. It's just I'm not walking down the hallway or across the hallway to have a meeting with a commissioner or our CAO, or even my own staff work remotely from their homes.
Okay. Should local region residents expect any increases in any fees or taxes as a result of COVID-19?
No, so we passed our budget this year. We're at 1.98 for our budget. It was an amazing budget, because what we've learned through COVID is that we have challenges within our communities, that we have great growth in the region of Durham, but with great growth comes infrastructure that's needed. So within that budget this year is $37.5 million for the expansion of Bowmanville Hospital. We're
Okay.
investing 5 million into over 5 million into Grandview Kids. That we're investing in broadband. We have we're doing and we're having to do this. So as a region, because our residents need high speed connectivity. So we've got one of our first projects is running a fiber line from Pickering up into Uxbridge. We're working with all levels of government to try to find the money that they're, so when when the province or the federal government talk about money and we'll use broadband, there's an application program that we have to apply for that money. So all the work behind that we need to do, and then it's not 100% dollars. So what we're doing is we're trying to leverage funds from the region to work with the province and the federal government to maximize the connectivity. And we've had some really good success and some good announcements, but it's a challenge. And then, of course, maintaining our commitment to becoming climate sufficient, our climate adaptation plan, meeting our carbon goals, all of that goes on at the same time. So there's a lot of balls in the air. Every day we have great things happening, but it's been a challenge. But I believe that we will truly manage all of the COVID related this year with support from our partners. And hopefully you will not see anything related to COVID-19 in next year's budget, other than what we would normally have to do to support our individual organizations within the region of Durham.
Okay. All right. Is there anything that the region has learned or implemented during the pandemic that may remain going forward?
Well, prior to the pandemic, in June of 2000, and I'm going from memory, in 19, we made a commitment that we would not build any more buildings at the region. So there was a plan to build another building adjacent to where we're located at 605 Roslyn Road East in Whitby. And we took that out. We recognized that technology was allowing us to do more and not have to create the spaces we needed. So we realized that by reinventing our existing building that we're in now, utilizing what our new employees are looking for in when they come to work, we could manage all of that. So we were able to cut that forecasted cost of about $100 million out of our budget. That was exciting. But what we've learned now is going forward that we will continue to allow and work with our teams to work remotely. There are things that we have learned in how we create efficiencies that happened because of COVID. So how we've managed to automate, we're, instead of going to standalone PCs connected to a network, we're going to docking stations and laptops. It really doesn't seem like a big thing, until in the event of emergency, you have to work from home and you can just grab your laptop and go. So we've put a lot of things in place for going into the future that will really make a difference in how we operate. And change is, one thing that people are reluctant to have change, but change is a good thing, and change management is key. And here we know that going forward, change is going to be constant, and we're able to adapt to that. It's just with COVID, we adapted very quickly. To move 1,600, well, originally it was about 1,400 people out of this building in 3 weeks and have them all online is an amazing story. And it wouldn't have happened that quickly if it wasn't COVID. But if you look at what you're doing today, the same thing happened at the colleges and the universities. They moved all of their young people to work remotely very quickly. Were there some hiccups in the beginning? Absolutely. But did they learn from that? I believe so. And I think the educational experience is very different. And and during COVID, the ability to be in a safe environment is key. And here's the same thing. We want to keep our residents that don't need to be out, our employees that do not need to be out in the public working remotely. And then we need to be able to protect all of our teams that are out there that have to interact with the public, making sure that they have proper PPE and the support that they need.
Is there anything that the region is looking for or could use from the federal or provincial government?
Well, so I'm an independent, and I'm proud of that. I'm not tied to a political party, so I can compliment fairly and criticize equally. So one of the things, there's a number of things that we have learned that were there before COVID that really need to be, um, you need to think on the big picture. And I'll give you two examples. The ability for our country to be connected through broadband goes back, and I'll use a reference to back to when our founding fathers 155 years or so ago got together and said Canada needs a railroad, and we need to be able to connect coast to coast for the movement of goods and people and services. And they took some huge risks, and those risks, it wasn't, there was a lot of places it was easy to build a railroad and a lot of places it was not so easy. So they tunneled through some of the tallest mountains or went over them, crossed some rivers that were unbelievable and you can never think happen. Broadband is the railroad of today. High speed infrastructure is that railroad of connectivity. It's about the movement of goods, technology, information, allowing people to work from home or remotely, allowing you to work from your home, and being able to move that large amount of data, like a rail car was carrying the goods of today, which is information. And the challenge that we have is that, well, the other levels of government talk about all the funding that's available. It's all application based. And
Hmm.
something as important as broadband infrastructure and high-speed connectivity should be on the national, it should be declared of national interest and be managed through the federal government and just get it done. For us to apply for all these little, and there's lots of money out there, but
Right.
it takes days or weeks to do the applications. And this is something that we need to realize to be competitive on the world stage. We need to be connected from coast to coast to coast. Um, so that also goes up into reaching into the very northern part of Canada. The other thing is we talk about the challenges related to homelessness, mental health, and opiates. There needs to be a national strategy. There needs to be um, the ability to manage this across the country. There again, funding for all of this is application based. We know what the problem is. I don't need another understanding to know that we have homelessness issues, mental health, opiates, and addictions. I was really proud the other day that we had someone who was charged as for dealing opiate and while dealing fentanyl, that they were charged with the actual crime of what was done versus the drug issue. We'll have to see where that goes.
Right.
But we really need to talk about how we manage this and how we invest in it. It doesn't do any good to punish the people that are addicted to drugs if you don't keep the drug dealers away from them.
Right.
And there really needs to be a different look at how we manage this. And I wish the federal government would sit down and really look at, it's great to put money into it, but we need to go back and find out what the root cause is, because you can't fix it unless you're willing to have that big discussion about the challenges related to where we got here, where we failed the system, and fix that. So you need to fix the challenge before you can fix the problem. And what they're doing is they'll just agree that we have a homelessness problem, but they're not willing to talk about whether it was a challenge of education, challenge of mental health, whether opiates. Each one is in a different basket, so it's a bigger challenge. So
Right.
that would be my rant for the day.
Okay. What's coming up on the region's agenda? What are the projects that they're focusing on or working on currently?
So the biggest challenge for us right now is and it is every hour of almost every day now, where we're dealing with COVID-19 and going forward. Um, the challenge of making sure that we maintain all of our services and deal with some of the things that we have gone out and made very public. Our climate adaptation project, which is recognized in 2018 as the best adaptation plan in Canada by FCM, making that work, because we have a plan, and a plan is no good unless you can work the plan. So we're doing that as we speak. uh, Being ready. There'll be a day when we come out of COVID-19, making sure that our economy is ready for what I believe will be the next economic boom, something that you haven't seen really since the end of World War II, where there'll be all of this money that people haven't been spending, businesses that are willing to take on new technologies, green energy technologies, green energy retrofits. We have a home energy retrofit plan that we've developed at the region in partnership with some of our credit unions it is going to create all kinds of jobs, and being ready for the new economy, because the economy of old is gone. You're going to hear more about electrification of vehicles and transit buses. You hear about the electrification of go down the road. The world is very different now than it was a year ago, and making sure that we're prepared as a region to move forward. And really, and in my heart, I truly believe that Durham is perfectly placed to lead the province in economic growth. We have You can see that now by the companies that are moving into Durham. Whether it be, you start in Pickering, you can talk about Kubota, or you can talk about Durham Life. In Ajax, you can talk about Amazon. In Whitby, you can talk about Amazon as well, but you can talk about some of the great residential growth. As you move into Oshawa, the story about General Motors realizing that they could turn a plant that they closed back into a production facility, and before they've opened, they've talked about going to 3 shifts. So the jobs that come from the spinoff of manufacturing cars to that 7-to-1 ratio, because that's what they feel for every auto assembler job. The rule is there's 7 other people out there in supportive industries, whether it be parts or distribution. Then if you go into Clarington and you talk about, whether it be East Penn or OPG moving their facilities to Clarington, or small modular nuclear reactors. And then as you go up into Scugog, you look at the redevelopment of Lake Scugog and the
Hmm.
plans that they need to do that, and the economic spin-offs. And if you look in Oshawa, we talked about General Motors, but you only have to go to the northern part of the city, to just north of the college and the university, to see that the land is moving around a new large distribution type center that will support the needs of the residents. And then when you go into Uxbridge and Scugog, they're not Scugog and Brock. It's about the culvert project in downtown Beaverton being finally finished, and that project opening up the downtown. And then I think we need to look at what we're doing in Brock, and what's going on around the redevelopment of water and sewer and the employment lands as far north as downtown Beaverton. So we have lots of employment lands. We have a plan that the region put forward that set money away to service employment land. So there's a dedicated fund versus having to plan it into the next year's budget. And then continuing to meet the needs of our residents. We'll be developing Seton and North Pickering. There'll be a new long-term care facility there. There's the new 320 20 bed facility for seniors that is being built in Ajax. as we speak that should open later this year. So there's all these amazing things that are happening that is really exciting to see. And in the same time, Oshawa's got a deep water port. There's the talk about the Pickering Airport. Well, it's slowed down now, but the new airport. And then what we do really well, we're leaders in the world in agriculture. Our farmers are, and what they do is amazing. And we are the clean energy capital of Canada through what OPG does between Pickering and Clarington. So Durham is in a good place coming out of COVID.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate your time and answering all the questions.
Oh, no problem. It is a really good story. And so my goal is, so when you graduate, there'll be really great jobs here in Durham Region, so you won't have to leave. It has always been my goal that I think Durham is perfectly placed to lead the province. One is that the land in Toronto is so expensive that you can, you try to buy 10 acres in anywhere in Toronto, and you're going to spend $70 million, and you can buy 10 acres out here for about $7 million. So there's a big difference, right? So we're ready. We have the talent pool. We graduate 5,000 young people from university and college every year. And I think Durham is the place to be. And I could think no other place where I'd like to be, even though the challenges of COVID, is to be here and see what's going to happen when we exit COVID.
Thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much for your interview with me. I've asked the questions and you've now got the answers. That's it for Stories with Zach for this week. We'll see you next week. Lights, camera, bye-bye.